And we're live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the live stream. Just got a few more pieces of news as well on this already crazy. Three of those guys are now out, and KJ Martin's out as well. So we're gonna be taking a harder look to a Josh Christopher, Armani Brooks, David Nwaba, all these guys. I think the likelihood of the Houston Rockets getting blown out in this game is very high now. So. That's something else to consider here, but overall, tons of value. So, Claw, welcome in. Dwayne Moody, welcome in. How you guys doing? If you can hear me loud and clear, please let me know in the chat. I think we should be good to go here, but other than that, I guess we'll do a little bit of a game-by-game. I mean, that just completely switched up this first game, though, so what we were expecting has even changed more. And this... You can't be refreshed because the contest just filled. So let me run this back to another one to break this down for you guys. And let me bring this up on my side screen. Sorry for the delay. That just really changed things, though, because Kevin Porter Jr. is active and unlikely to play. So now the Rockets are shorthanded. The Hornets were really shorthanded, and then they got confirmation that Cody Martin's going to be back, so they're not quite as bad now. But overall, still a lot of guys out on all teams in the NBA tonight, so it's going to be crazy. James Harden, when they're continuing to be no. Kevin Durant on the Nets is obviously going to be a fantastic play, so we'll talk about him. I'm just trying to get this pulled up on the screen for you guys, because that contest just folded all of this new stuff we have going on here. And then we'll get into the breakdown, because that just completely changed things. So bear with me 1 second. I'll have to be adjusting my projections accordingly. And so yeah. Yeah, so Houston taking on Charlotte now. Like I said, we just got confirmation. There is indeed no Kevin Porter Jr. expected to not play in this one. Jayshawn Tate just got ruled out. So I think Sagan at 5'4" is obviously going to take a big step forward here. It's expected to be a fast, up-paced game. This guy's been producing at a really high rate when he gets a chance, so I think he might have become an intriguing play now if we do get confirmation that he is indeed in the starting lineup. Even if he's not, he could possibly still become a great play, because I think this game kind of blows out now. Eric Gordon just became a much better play at 5'3". Not really someone that I was looking to prioritize before that news, but now with all these guys being out, the shot volume should really be there, and he's only in the low 5K range. So someone that I was not planning on really prioritizing, I think just became a priority for us, possibly. The only thing that really could hold us back here is indeed the blowout. Which is there's a strong chance this game turns into a blowout now. But Armani Brooks at 4'4", going to become a phenomenal play now, because he's going to be probably starting, and a lot of usage is going to be flowing through him. So a guy we weren't looking to once again right before I started the stream could be a viable play. Josh Christopher at 3'7", maybe an intriguing play as well now. So the question becomes how much we really want to run it back with the Charlotte guys, because they were a team I had a lot of interest in before, and they're all priced very reasonably, and this is the fastest up-tempo game. But the problem becomes, one, Cody Martin's back. He was one guy that I didn't expect to play, so he's going to be added into the rotation, which might make it a little bit more difficult to pinpoint who's going to be producing. But two, I think this game possibly turns to a blowout. Gordon Hayward, Kelly Oubre, Terry Rozier, all priced in the low to mid 6K range. I do still think are certainly viable, because even if the game does blow up, they can still get there. LaMelo Ball up at 9'5", I think becomes a little bit scary for me. So that would kind of be my approach there for this first game. Chicago taking on Atlanta is the second game on the slate. Trae Young is listed as questionable. He wasn't expected to play. Now all of a sudden he had one negative test, and he could be cleared to play on Monday is the latest update. So that is obviously going to shake up the landscape of this rotation. If he does indeed return, then obviously, you know, these guys don't become as prominent of plays as they would. Right now, you're looking to Clint Capella is the only big man. Cam Reddish and Bogdanovich certainly going to get a bunch of usage and expected to start, as well as Skylar Mays. So That's kind of what we're looking to right now, but that's with Trae Young being ruled out. And he hasn't gotten confirmed as being out yet. So that's obviously another very big piece of news we're going to have to keep our eyes on. This game's one of the earlier games on the slate, so I do think we should have that news soon, hopefully. But until we get it, can't really go any further with my thoughts on the Atlanta Hawks. I mean, regardless, I think all these guys are pretty good value plays, but they become next to impossible misses if there are indeed no Trae Young. On the other side, Chicago, Ball got ruled out, so Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Vucevic all going to get a bump up. I do think that Zach LaVine probably gets the biggest bump up here, having more on-ball handling responsibilities. Kobe White's expected to start at the point guard position. I think that with all this value on the slate today, Kobe White's probably not my top priority. Could he certainly have a big game? Yes, but I think that these other guys are really going to take a lot of his usage away when he's on the court at the same time as them. So I wouldn't be prioritizing him too much personally. I think there's some better options. Like I said, possibly the Skylar Mays is going to get started. With the Houston Rockets news, Armani Brooks now. I mean, I thought I had this whole slate figured out before I got on the stream, and then next thing you know, now it's expected to be probably Armani Brooks, Josh Christopher, Eric Gordon, and Daniel Tice getting the start. So, I mean, that's obviously big news. Tice is going to get a big bump up. Christopher, Armani Brooks, these were guys we weren't even thinking about. Now there's no Jayshawn Tate. There's no KJ Martin. All of a sudden, they become much more prominent plays and even more value that I didn't even think we were going to need. So, should be very easy to get up to some of these pay-up options that we're discussing. Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan in this game. Clint Capella, with there being no John Collins, I think it's a big bump up. So if you want to pay up for him at the center position, the problem is I do think that one of the best center position values on the slate is in this next game. Boston taking on Minnesota all the way down to 3-3 is Mr. Nathan Knight. Nathan Knight's expected to get the start tonight. There's no Karl-Anthony Towns. Naz Reid was ruled out as well. And Nathan Knight grades out as the top value play on the slate for me currently. This could change with all this craziness going on. But for the time being, grades out as a phenomenal play. He produces over 1 fantasy point per minute. He's only 3-3. For that reason, he should be able to surpass this price tag very easily. So when you go over to DraftKings and my premium projections, and I sort it by my multiplier metric, which determines how much a player is expected to surpass their price tag as far as their expected value, I do have Nathan Knight putting up 1.08 DK points per minute, and I've got him projected to play 29 minutes. So if he plays 29 minutes at that good of a production rate, at a 3-3 price tag, he should be able to just absolutely blow this price tag out of the water very easily. So Nathan Knight grades out as one of the top value plays on the slate for me. We did get confirmation there's no Jason Tatum on this slate as well during the day, which is going to give a big bump up to Jaylen Brown. So I think Jaylen Brown becomes a phenomenal pay-up option on this slate now. They're already dealing with no Dennis Schroeder. Now there's no Jason Tatum. I think Jaylen Brown's going to have a bunch of usage. And we just got another piece of news that DeAndre Ayton has entered health and protocols. So, all right, guys, this is going to be crazy. So we got confirmation on the Houston news. Now DeAndre Ayton's in health protocols. So that means we're probably going to want to be playing some JaVale McGee all of a sudden. So there's another value play at the center position, which means we should be able to pay up for all of these different options. Claw says, Jaylen Brown or Zach LaVine? That is a fantastic question. I don't really know. I like both of them quite a bit. I'm going to have to look at my projections for that one. I tend to think I'm going to lean towards Jaylen Brown because Zach LaVine, he's still getting a little bit of usage taken away with guys like Vucevic and DeMar DeRozan being healthy, whereas Jaylen Brown, I mean, the next healthy guy that's going to take away the most usage from him is at the guard position is Marcus Smart, and we know Marcus Smart's not exactly a top guy for creating his shot off the dribble and getting to the rim and all that stuff. So I think that Jaylen Brown's a really phenomenal play, so I think I'll have to go with him. And when I'm checking my projections, Zach LaVine currently does grade out as a little bit of a better play as far as the, base projection aspect. But, like I said, I kind of think with you're factoring in that stuff, Jaylen Brown's going to be a pretty phenomenal play here. No Dennis Schroeder. If Marcus Smart does indeed get the start at the point guard position, he's going to get a big bump up in his usage as well. We have a few guys that aren't traditionally point guards that are expected to get the start at the point guard position, which we're going to talk about as we go along the slate here, but they're really standing out. Anytime a guy gets, switched over to the point guard position when he traditionally isn't, he's going to have a lot more on-ball handling responsibilities, a lot more upside. So, for instance, if Skylar Mays does start at the point guard position with there being no Trae Young, he's going to become a phenomenal play on the Atlanta Hawks. If Marcus Smart starts at the point guard position, phenomenal play. Derek White, we'll get to this game next, with there being no DeJounte Murray for the Spurs now starting at the point guard position, becomes a phenomenal play. Jalen Brunson, with there being no Luka Doncic. Eric Bledsoe with no Reggie Jackson and no Paul George becomes a phenomenal play. And obviously James Harden with there being no Kevin Durant. So that would be an approach that I would be kind of factoring in the back of your head during this slate. Anyone that's not a point guard that's becoming a point guard, they're going to have a lot more responsibilities, a lot more on-ball handling duties. Malik Beasley could possibly be in that role if Patrick Beverley is ruled out. He's still listed as questionable in this one. So if he is indeed ruled out, Malik Beasley would fall under that category as well. The Timberwolves are already so short-handed as Malik Beasley is a pretty phenomenal play, but if we do get confirmation on that, you could be looking to a McDaniels. I don't think Jaden McDaniels is quite as good of a play at 5'1" as the other McDaniels on the slate at only 3'7". But the other McDaniels I was feeling a lot more confident about before we got confirmation that Cody Martin's expected to return. Cody Martin could possibly step in and take away his minutes, and now when we're looking at the Houston Rockets new starting lineup, the personnel is obviously different than what we had anticipated. So that's certainly going to be interesting. I think Jalen McDaniels is still a phenomenal play. He produces at a really high rate. I was really high on him at 3.7. Now we have Christopher, though, at 3.7 on the Rockets side, and all of this value opening up. So the Utah taking on the San Antonio Spurs. Next game we're going to talk about here. Derek White, like I just said, starting at the point guard position now with there being no DeJounte Murray. I do think he gets a big step up, and certainly I'm interested in him. Claw asked, Lillard or Harden? I would definitely go with Harden. Lillard still listed as questionable, though. They're both phenomenal plays if Lillard does play, but we don't know that he's playing. Sora Dwayne Moody says, how many value players are too many value players? Well, with the way this slate's going, man, I think you're going to be able to just pay up for a bunch of really high upside, expensive players and just fill in the best value plays around it. So I don't know what that means. I'm going to have to kind of start building my lineups, but my guess is you could have, 3 of the most expensive players on the slate and all value around it with the way we're going here. So I think you can pretty much do whatever you want. If you want to go with the balanced build, you can. If you want to pay up, you can. All that fun stuff. The class says, will sheets be updated? Yeah, man, I'm going to update all the sheets. It's getting crazy, but I'm going to be talking about it as I'm going along the stream here. For any of my premium content members, I would highly recommend that you're playing the value plays with the most point per minute production, because there's going to be so many value plays that grade out as decent plays, and they might have high multiplier metrics, but if they don't produce at a high rate, I would compare them to the same guys around the same projection and pick the guy that produces at the highest rate, because we're going to have an overload of value plays here. Mike Conley on the Utah side is going to get a big bump up as well, with there being no Donovan Mitchell. Problem is the Utah side is pretty much mostly healthy outside of Donovan Mitchell. So like Rudy Gobert, Conley, Clarkson, Bogdanovich, Joe Ingles, all going to be kind of competing with each other for usage. I do think we have some other spots where, teams are dealing with even more injuries. So I'm not sure that I would want to target too many of these guys. And we just got confirmation that the Atlanta Hawks are still waiting on results for a few players. So apparently there's not even a guarantee the Atlanta Hawks have who they have listed in right now. So that's fun. Add that to the list of stuff we're going to have to keep our eyes on. But yeah, this game grades out as a decent plays overall. Derek White, Jakob Poeltl, Keldon Johnson, all going to get bumps up here with there being no DeJounte Murray. We have Bates Diop, Lonnie Walker. But with these other teams dealing with even more injuries, I don't think it's necessary to get too much exposure to this game. I certainly have no issues with you targeting one of the mid-range guys, your favorite option, Keldon Johnson, Mike Conley. It is a pretty decent pace game overall. I just wouldn't go too crazy. I would be targeting 1 or 2 guys and maximize their upside. So, I'd be putting these pieces in with some of the top value plays that we have on the slate. We talked about Nathan Knight being a phenomenal play. So Knight's going to be a great play on the Minnesota Timberwolves, obviously. Now there's no DeAndre Ayton, so now we have JaVale McGee that we're going to talk about later on, I'm sure. So I tend to think the natural build is going to be probably going to value at the center position and then paying up for a bunch of guards and forwards and all that stuff because we're going to be able to pretty easily here. So this next game, like I said, with there being no DeAndre Ayton now, obviously you could be looking to JaVale McGee all the way down to 4-5. He's going to become one of the best value plays on the slate now, probably. And we have so much value as is. Do we really need it? Not too sure. But the fact of the matter is it's going to allow you to pay up for all these pay-up options we've been talking about. James Harden, Damian Lillard. In this Dallas-Portland game with Kristaps Porzingis, with there being no Luka Doncic, you could maybe be paying up for him. We have confirmation there's no Dylan Brooks, no DeAnthony Melton in this Memphis side, so I do think that Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., going to be pretty respectable plays in the mid-range. The problem is Phoenix is really good defensively. Kyle Anderson, Tyus Jones, if you want to go here, but I think my favorite play on the Memphis side is all the way down to 3-1 and John Conchar because he's only 3-1, produces at a very high rate. Expected to get the start once again with him dealing with these injuries, and he grades out as a pretty phenomenal play, putting up 0.83 DK points per minute. I've got him projected for right around 27 minutes. He played 28 last time out, so I do think that he's going to be a pretty good play here. Claw says Derek White, Horford, or Portal, Robert Williams. I'd go Derek White there out of those guys because Derek White's getting the start at the point guard position with no DeJounte Murray, so I like him. Best fantasy point per minute. Derek White, Acapulco, Conley, Jackson Jr. Once again, I would go with Derek White because I think he gets the biggest bump up with there being no DeJounte Murray. I think he's going to have a much higher production on a permanent basis. So, guys, if you're enjoying the stream, if you could take a second to leave a like on the stream, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content that I upload, that would be greatly appreciated. I'll be here all NBA DFS season long, breaking down these NBA DFS slates, help you guys win some money every night out. And with this crazy season going on right now, we got a bunch of other stuff to be going over on the slate. And if you don't absolutely love every single guy in your lineup tonight, you're probably building wrong because there is an absurd amount of value options. So this next game, Portland taking on Dallas. Right off the page, I will say Larry Nance Jr. is expected to pretty much get the start at the center position with him dealing with injuries to Nurkic. Robert Covington's out as well, so another guy. The center and point guard positions both very relevant at producing a high rate. So I think Larry Nance Jr. stands out as a phenomenal play. And we are still waiting on the news of Damian Lillard. If Damian Lillard is ruled out, Anthony Simmons is going to become a much better play, obviously. He'd become one of the best value plays on the slate. Damian Lillard is questionable with a personal injury news, though. Because at this point, I mean, obviously, we don't know. This is one of the later games. And unfortunately, that means that we can't really take initiative with putting these guys in lineups. However, with that being said, if Damian Lillard is ruled in or out, if you have Damian Lillard in your lineup and or Anthony Simmons and the news goes your way, I think you could be in a really good spot here on this slate. So I do think that these guys are going to be phenomenal tournament plays. And that's something you could kind of hold out on to make sure that you're differentiating yourself in the field. The problem is we have so many good options in the early games. Like, you got to pass up some of these guys. Now we have all the Houston value. We already had all the Atlanta value. Apparently, there's a chance even more guys could be ruled out, so that game might end up getting canceled. If that's the case, you'd have to kind of pivot off a bunch, which makes it even more difficult. The Minnesota value, we talked about them being very shorthanded. If you want to go to the Minnesota value, obviously, phenomenal plays there. And then lastly, this Dallas-Portland game, obviously, all the way at 10 o'clock, if you do guess right on some of these guys, Jalen Brunson, Kristaps Porzingis could continue to be high-usage guys with there being no Luka Doncic in this one. So certainly do think that they're going to be interesting plays. And the other thing is, obviously, Anthony Simmons. Nazir Little, I think, is grades out as a pretty phenomenal value play regardless for us now. And we just got confirmation that Trae Young is in. So Trae Young is indeed in. That's a big piece of news because he's going to have a phenomenal amount of usage now with this Atlanta Hawks team being so shorthanded. And I also think that impacts some of his teammates, obviously, in a negative way. So, some of these guys that graded out as just phenomenal value plays in Bogdanovich and Cam Reddish are still respectable plays here. with this team dealing with all these injuries. You know, there's no John Collins, there's no Danilo Gallinari, there's no Kevin Huerter. But with Trae Young being back, their ownership might be inflated for people that have been looking at the slate all day. And now Trae Young's in. He wasn't expected to be in. And they may not be as great at plays as some of these people were expecting. So might go a little bit light on the Atlanta Hawks guys now outside. Maybe Trae Young, obviously a tremendous pay-up option now. But I do think that Skylar Mays becomes a far less intriguing option for us at 3.8. I think he was going to have a lot of ownership before. Still a respectable play regardless if he comes off the bench or if he starts. He's still really cheap, and they are still dealing with a lot of injuries. But it's not as easy of a no-brainer play with there being Trae Young in this game now, so that'd be kind of my approach there. And then as we continue along the slate, the last game on the slate, we have Brooklyn taking on the LA Clippers. There is indeed no Paul George. There's no Reggie Jackson. There's no Kawhi Leonard. So now, once again, we have even more good value in this last game. Eric Bledsoe, Terrence Mann, Luke Kennard, all priced in the mid 5K range to 6K range. All should have a lot of usage. And the fact of the matter is their price tags just haven't adjusted. So, you know, with all this crazy value popping up and people getting all crazy and out of hand, it might be smart to just go ahead and maybe load up on some expected starters. And that's a good way to kind of differentiate yourself, possibly, if people are going to load up on a bunch of value. But at the same time, it's tough because we have some really good pay-up options. James Harden being one of them. Obviously, with no Kevin Durant, James Harden's ceiling is going to be humongous. This guy could go out there and easily put up 100 DraftKings points on any given night. I say easily. Obviously, 100 DraftKings points is not easy, but he could do it. It's realistic, and if he does, then you're going to need him. So, James Harden, certainly and obviously a top pay-up option on the slate. We have even more value coming through on this slate now with all of these injuries and stuff. I'm going to have to update my projections. Like I said before I came on the stream, I kind of took a quick look at the slate. I had a large amount of confidence in who I was going to for value plays, and now all of a sudden the entire Rockets team's rolled out, and all of a sudden things have changed dramatically. So it is a crazy slate. It's a crazy time to be living in, and with all of this stuff having to be adjusted on the fly, there are going to be lots of changes. So obviously just keep that in mind here. We might have to change our priorities for our values. So yeah, that's a quick little breakdown there. Over on FanDuel, I think it's going to be kind of even easier. There's just going to be value everywhere. So I mean, the shooting guard position, the small forward, DeMar DeRozan, Jaylen Brown, going to be obvious pay-up options with both their teams dealing with some injuries. You have Kelly Oubre in the fast up-tempo game with Charlotte dealing with some injuries. Malik Beasley in the mid-range. Larry Nance, Nazir Little, both going to grade out. Terrence Mann, we talked about him. Cam Reddish and these Atlanta Hawks guys. Like I said, with Trae Young being back, not going to be quite as good plays, but still priorities. Zach LaVine, big bump up in usage for him. And as far as the value over here, you know, we have so much of it now. Now at the center position, we already had a bunch of value as is. Now probably we're going to be able to go to JaVale McGee at 4.5 down here. Mason Plumlee was already a respectable value play in that fast up-tempo game. Now we have another center that's a value play. We talked about Nathan Knight. He's going to be a phenomenal play at only 3.8. I mean, you know, it doesn't get much easier than locking him in at only a 3.8 price tag on a guy that produces over a fantasy point per minute. So, should be fairly easily, you know, you should love every single person in your lineup. It really should come down to which value plays you're debating on. And like I said, if you're a premium content member, make sure you're checking out the projections, making sure you're checking out the core plays, and make sure you're playing value plays that produce at high rates. There's no need to play a guy that produces at a low rate. He might get a lot of minutes tonight with all the injuries, but why would you want to do that when we have some of these other guys? Like I mean, we just talked about it. Nathan Knight produces at over a fantasy point per minute. He's only 3.3. He's going to be a phenomenal play. Some of these Houston Rockets guys that I'm going to pull up on my side screen now because we just got all that news. Let's see. So now for the Houston Rockets, we have no Christian Wood, no John Wall, no Kevin Porter Jr., no Jayshawn Tate. Sagan at 5.4 produces at 1.2 DK points per minute. So, I mean, if this game turns into a blowout, I have a feeling he's probably going to need to be out there for a little bit of run. He only has center eligibility is the only problem here. So on a site like DraftKings, it's a lot harder to really want to be playing him, to be honest, in comparison to a site like FanDuel, I believe, where he has, center and power forward eligibility. It's just a lot easier to be able to fit him in if you want to go there. On DraftKings, we have JaVale McGee, we have Nathan Knight now. I don't really know. Eric Gordon at 5'3", I think is going to be a phenomenal play. That's the biggest piece of news here that's really changed up the slate because he's just going to be a phenomenal play now. Armani Brooks, the same rule applies for him. 0.81 DK points per minute. He's only 4'4". Josh Christopher, 0.83 DK points per minute. David Nwaba's putting up 0.98 DK points per minute. I think he becomes a pretty intriguing play as well. So, some of those guys are some of the top values on the slate now. David Nwaba is only 3'3". I mean, he's going to become very easy to put in your lineups. He's only 3'3". He's taking on a Charlotte team that's one of the worst defensive teams on the year. If the game turns into a blowout, they're going to be forced to play him minutes, so his minutes are locked in. So, yeah, guys, I mean, you should be feeling very confident about your value plays. You should really only be playing value plays that are really producing at a high rate. Daniel Tice is 3'1". He's 0.82 DK points per minute. Once again, he's going to get a big bump up here. Probably going to have to play a bunch of minutes all of a sudden at only a 3'1" price tag. So, Daniel Tice, I mean, the Rockets just all of a sudden became... The whole day we thought it was going to be the Atlanta Hawks that had the best value. And now all of a sudden the entire Rockets team just got ruled out. And they are all of a sudden going to be the primary source of value on this slate tonight, which I guess is fine. We're going to make the adjustment. But, things are crazy. Things are crazy right now. And updating projections is not easy and next to impossible. When you get this amount of injury news, so you kind of have to have a good head on your shoulders as to what's going on and make sure that you're adjusting accordingly, referring back to old times where certain players were out and who got the biggest bump up. So, I mean, during these times, it's a lot more complex than we're accustomed to, so even though NBA is crazy as is, it's even crazier now. Claus says, McGee or Knight? No idea, man. They're both phenomenal plays. I could see myself having both of them in a lot of my lineups, so if you want me to be honest, I really could see me having both of them in a lot of my lineups. They're both phenomenal value plays, so if I'm having to pick between the two, just pick whoever allows you to get in your favorite pay-up option. That's probably the best approach there. Yeah. Brian says, would I be a fool to play Dame over Harden tonight? Not necessarily with all this value we have. Like, depending upon... I would have to see the rest of your lineup. Not necessarily, but... I gotta be honest, man. There's so much value now. It's gonna be pretty easy to get Harden in your lineup. I think it's probably smart to do so. If there wasn't as much value and it was a little bit more difficult to get James Harden in your lineup, or there wasn't as much good value, I should say, then I would probably give you the green flag on that. But, I mean, Daniel Tice, 3-1 now, starting for Houston. Phenomenal value play. I was even looking at Grant Williams earlier for the Boston Celtics, who's only 3K on DraftKings because he's probably going to play a bunch of minutes now. The Boston Celtics love Grant Williams, and now they're dealing with even more injuries. Not too sure he's all that necessary now with all this Rockets value opening up, but just, I guess, a name I was going to throw out there earlier before this stuff came out. But now on the Houston side, we have Eric Gordon at 5'3", phenomenal play. Jalen Green's not expected to play. Kevin Porter's not expected to play. KJ Martin's not expected to play. So Armani Brooks at 4'4", phenomenal play. He's going to get a lot of usage, a lot of minutes. Josh Christopher at 3'7", phenomenal play. David Nwaba at 3'3", phenomenal play. Daniel Tice at 3'1", phenomenal play. Like, these guys are all so cheap. They're taking on a Charlotte Hornets team that's the worst defensive team in the league. Charlotte, it continues to be part of games where they're just not playing defense. And, I mean, the Charlotte Hornets don't play defense. These guys are way underpriced. It's the fastest paced game on the slate. and their entire team's out. So what more can you really ask for than that? And for that reason, you should really be getting a lot of exposure to this side. And I'm starting to think I might not want to get quite as much exposure to the Charlotte side of things, because they might just absolutely blow this team out of the water. And as far as a pay-up option, don't really know that I want to be going there. Brian says, would you play Knight and McGee in the same lineup? Yes, I would. I think that's perfectly reasonable. I think that might open up a lot of... if you play those two guys in the same lineup, let's see what we're dealing with here. Knight and McGee. If you play them in the same lineup, you have an average of 7,000 per player. There's so much other value. Like if you're paying up for James Harden, that still leaves you with 6'2". We just got the confirmation, obviously Armani Brooks. I just talked about him on Houston becoming a phenomenal value play now, 4'4". You still have 6'6", so it should be very easy to be filling out your lineup with some studs. There's so much value. It really it's become that much easier. If you don't know, the sponsor of the channel is Parlay Play. I was going to go ahead and give you guys some Parlay Play plays of the day. With all this injury news, I wanted to wait on some more news, and we just got it. So, the Hornets, Rockets, I don't even know if there's anyone. Christian Wood, Eric Gordon now that we got confirmation that all these guys are out. 18.5 parlay points could be a phenomenal play. There's no Miles Bridges on the Hornets, so maybe a Terry Rozier. What's his line at here? For parlay points, 30.5. That's a pretty hefty line. I don't think I would go there. I'd probably want to explore elsewhere on this slate today. But if you guys would do, I'm gonna kind of continue to look along here with you guys. If you want to check out the sponsor of the channel, Parlay Play, go ahead and check them out. Use the link in the chat that I'm about to put in here. And you get a free $10 in entries when you use the link. You also get a deposit match up to $50 when you deposit today. And I think there's going to be some pretty solid picks for us here. If we can just kind of dissect them. If I can dissect them here, like the Spurs Jazz, we talked about them being shorthanded now. We have Mike Conley. Let's see, parlay points, 20.5 parlay points for Mike Conley. And then Derek White, with there being no DeJounte Murray, over 28.5 parlay points. I think those are two pretty solid picks. So if you want to go ahead and pick, Derek White, Mike Conley, take the over for those guys. I certainly think that would make a lot of sense. So check them out, guys. Feeling pretty confident about those picks with all these injuries going on. And use that link. Use the promo code KJK003 to receive your free $10 for your risk-free entries and your $50 deposit match, up to $50. So check it out. And yeah, if you guys have any questions in the chat, please do ask them. Other than that, I think we did a pretty good job of covering this slate. We have so much injury news. I have a bunch of updates to do with my projections. If you do want to check out my premium content, you can do so over here on patreon.com/KJK_DFS. I am offering a discount on the KJK DFS Discord package for only $1 throughout the entire month of December. And you can get the KJK DFS NBA package for $19.99. You get my premium NBA projections, NBA data sheet, player stats, team stats, play context stats, core plays, and yes, all of that fun stuff, which I would highly recommend that for my current Patreon members, you're checking that out leading up to lock, because this is some craziness going on, so we're going to have to make some adjustments. Claude says, Terrence Mann or Finney Smith? Terrence Mann by far. Terrence Mann is a much better fantasy point per minute producer. So for that reason, that would be my answer there for sure. And yeah, guys, this is craziness. The Houston Rockets just opened up a bunch of value. It's going to be, obviously, we're going to want to be targeting those guys. That would be my approach here. Load up on the Houston value for sure now. We have the Charlotte value as well, which you can run it back with. I'm just a little concerned about this game turning into a blowout, like I said. But I guess you got to kind of take that risk. My approach would probably be not to pay up for the pay-up options in this game and the Melo Ball, Christian Wood. If you pay up for Christian Wood and he goes off, this game stays close most likely, but I just don't think it stays close now. Houston's completely depleted now, so they're already kind of a rough team as is. Now they're even a little bit rougher, obviously, so I'm kind of anticipating that the Charlotte Hornets just absolutely blow out Houston, although the Charlotte Hornets don't play any defense. Status alert, Trae Young is the only Hawks player who will clear health and safety protocols for Monday's game. Okay, so that means that they can't play the game, obviously. So I guess this Atlanta game's not going to happen, right? I mean, so that means the entire Atlanta Hawks team has been ruled out. So I don't think this game's going to play, guys. That's the latest update. I don't think you could play anyone on Chicago or Atlanta now. So, yeah, I mean, this is just going to be crazy. You're going to have to use your intuition. And like I said, my premium members, I'm going to help you out with my core plays and in the Discord chat. Because at this point, updating projections is like next to impossible. I mean, we have guys like Greg Monroe playing for the Minnesota Timberwolves. All of a sudden, Leandro Balmero, like Joe Johnson just came out of retirement. So, it's just getting crazy. Luckily, I have been playing NBA DFS for many years now, so I kind of understand how these coaching staffs work and the type of rotation adjustments and all that stuff. So I'm pretty confident still in myself and being able to make these adjustments. But from a statistics and analysis standpoint, it's getting to the point where we don't even have all the news or all the players in the pool. Like it's just craziness. Claw says Reddish or Cody Martin. I would go with Cody Martin because I don't think Reddish is going to play. Would you play Booker on DraftKings? Probably not. I think there's a lot of other better pay-up options, John. Claw says Finney Smith or Cody Martin. That one's a little bit tougher. I don't know, man. Cody Martin's in the fastest up-pace game. He's priced respectably. There's no Miles Bridges. So there's no PJ Washington. So I do think he gets a decent amount of run here. And for that reason, I think he could be a pretty nice play. So, yeah. Claw says, storm is coming. I don't know what you mean by that, man, but I think the storm has already arrived. This is just ridiculous, man. So I don't think this Atlanta Hawks game is going to play. The entire day, I've been anticipating that the Hawks were going to be our entire value, and then we were going to build around the Hawks players. And now I'm anticipating that game doesn't even play, and the entire Rockets team got ruled out. So now the Rockets are going to be our top value plays. And I don't think it's even really close, though. The fact of the matter is these guys all produce at pretty decent rates, and the Charlotte Hornets are terrible defensively, so it's kind of nice being able to say that. However, these guys are going to be extremely highly owned. But I would feel pretty confident in your Houston value guys tonight. I think it's pretty straightforward. I mean, there's no DJ Augustine now, so Armani Brooks, his minutes are just locked in. Eric Gordon, his minutes are locked in. Jalen Green is not expected to play. Kevin Porter Jr. is not expected to play, even though they're listed as active here. So for that reason, I mean, these guys' minutes are just going to be so solidified. When you're taking a look at the Rockets roster, I mean, who else are they going to play? Armani Brooks, Josh Christopher, Eric Gordon, Daniel Tice, Christian Wood, Sagan, David Nwaba, Garuba, Queen, and Knicks. So I guess if you kind of decipher through those really cheap Houston guys and you are able to find someone that no one else plays, you could stand out. But I mean, let's see. We're dealing with a 1-minute sample size for Deshaun Nix. Garuba, we're dealing with a 72-minute sample size, 12 games. Okay, so that's respectable. He's putting up 0.97 DK points per minute. He is a center. So maybe interesting play there. Garuba at 3K. Queen, I think I just talked about him. No, 10-minute sample size, so we really don't know how much he produces. So I'd really be locking in on those main candidates. Fact of the matter is, I don't really think it's a slate where you have to get all that cute anyways. I mean, just lock in those guys, the main guys that are starting. It's fairly simple. Whoever starts for the Houston Rockets are going to be phenomenal value plays. So, I mean, Armani Brooks, Josh Christopher, Eric Gordon, Daniel Tice, David Nwaba, Sagan off the bench. But like I said, Sagan's kind of expensive relative. I mean, I don't know. Sagan, you could still play him, obviously. He could absolutely crush, so I don't want to deter you away from playing him. And the fact of the matter is they are very short-handed. But we have Nathan Knight now on Minnesota, who's only 3-3, and we also have JaVale McGee. So it's tough. But, I mean, Sagan's a phenomenal fantasy point per minute producer. He's putting up 1.2 DK points per minute on the season, which is really, really good. So I certainly wouldn't frown upon you playing him if you want to go there. Brian says, LaMelo, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, McDaniels, Knight, Dame, Tice, McGee. Sound good on DK? Yeah, that sounds pretty good. I don't really know if LaMelo would be my top priority pay-up option is the only thing I would criticize there, because I just think that the Houston Hornets are going to, not the Charlotte Hornets are going to win this game fairly easily, and for that reason, I'm a little bit scared of the pay-up options in this game. I feel like I'd rather just go with the cheaper guys. Like, if you're going to play Charlotte guys, probably just go with Hayward, Oubre. I know you already said that you have McDaniels in your lineup, so, like, McDaniels at 3.7, he's a lot cheaper. He could get there a lot easier. Nightmare says, leaving 2K on the table is a thing now. I would not leave 2K on the table for this slate. Absolutely not. I don't think that's smart at all. There's so much value. You should be able to pay up for the top fantasy point producers in the league on this slate. So that's what I would be doing. Nick says, projections for Jordan Clarkson. Jordan Clarkson I have projected as a decent play. Nothing too crazy. Claw says, Gobert, Morant. I would go with Gobert there because there's no Donovan Mitchell. He should get a big bump up. As much as he can, Gobert's not really expected to be an, he's not an on-ball handling guy or anything like that. Class says CP3 or Brunson. I'd go with Brunson there. Phoenix Suns are pretty healthy outside of DeAndre Ayton. So CP3, Devin Booker going to be kind of taking away each other's usage, whereas Brunson, there's no Luka Doncic, and he is cheaper. But yeah, Nick, to answer your question for Jordan Clarkson, I've got him projected for, on DraftKings, I've got Jordan Clarkson projected for 29 DraftKings points, so he's pretty respectable play. The problem is we have so much cheap value now, and pay-up options with guys out, like Damian Lillard, there's no CJ McCollum. He's a great pay-up option. Kristaps Porzingis, there's no Luka Doncic. He's a great pay-up option. James Harden, there's no Kevin Durant. He's a great pay-up option. Jaylen Brown, there is no Jason Tatum. He is a great pay-up option. Chicago, Atlanta, there's no Ball if this game does play. I don't think it's going to. Zach LaVine, great pay-up option. I don't think this game's going to play. Houston taking on Charlotte. All pretty much healthy outside of Christian Wood. He could be a great pay-up option. I just tend to think they're going to get absolutely blown out, and he's going to be the first guy that's pulled off the floor, and there's going to run a bunch of other guys around him. Then again, they are very short-handed on bodies. Christian Wood might have a phenomenal game. So he is a pretty good tournament play, but a little bit risky. Fantasy point producer, are you saying fantasy points per minute? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about, Nightmare. So when you look at that, especially on the slate today, man, honestly, pay attention to my core plays because there's a solid chance I can't even update some of my projections because we have guys getting signed off the street. So, like, I don't have anywhere to put the minutes. It's becoming next to impossible. So I'm going to help you guys in the best way possible in the Discord chat. And my core plays will obviously be where you want to prioritize your lineup around. So just keep your eyes on my core plays tonight, especially with all this craziness going on. There's a solid chance this Atlanta game doesn't even play. I don't think we haven't got confirmation that it's going to play, but we got a report that literally Trae Young's the only one that's going to pass. So I don't know if that was a false report. I don't know if that was a typo. I don't know what's going on here. But, I mean, is the only Hawks player who will clear? I don't know if that's a mistake on the reporting. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. So I'm going to have to get off this stream and scram and help you guys out. And I'll do my best, and I'll have my core plays updated. But this is just crazy. And for the time being, I think I got to get off. I don't know. I really need confirmation on this Atlanta Hawks game, man. Because obviously that's a big piece of news, because that makes an entire game out. John says, is Porzingis a priority? I certainly think it could be. If you have the necessary salary, and Patrick Beverley just got ruled out. So add it to the list of news. Patrick Beverley is out. That means we're probably going to see someone else start at the point guard position for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Who that's going to be, I don't know. I think they've been kind of leaning towards going with Jordan McLaughlin at 3-2. So I think that Jordan McLaughlin probably gets to start at the point guard position. And you can add him to the list of value plays. Jordan McLaughlin, 3-2. What does he produce on a permanent basis is the question. Going over to the Minnesota Timberwolves here. Timberwolves, McLaughlin. Producing 0.67 DK points per minute. That's not good. So I'm not getting too excited to target him, to be honest. Malik Beasley put up 0.8 DK points per minute. Nathan Knight puts up 1.08 DK points per minute. Jalen Noel puts up 0.98 DK points per minute. So those would kind of be my favorite options. Problem is, are they going to actually get Jalen Noel the run that he deserves at 3-9? I don't know. I would certainly be prioritizing Malik Beasley and Nathan Knight as my top two options on this team. They produce at the highest rate. They should get plenty of minutes, and for that reason, that would be it. Nick says, thoughts on Malik Beasley? Yeah, I just talked about him. He is a phenomenal play now. So that would be my thought process there. But I got to get out of here, guys. This is craziness. I got to get out of here and update all my projections. I got to update my own lineups, update my core plays for my Patreon members. So I'm going to bounce at the door. If you are interested in becoming a premium content member, go ahead and check it out. I'm going to put the link in the chat right now. I will give you access to my sheets that I will be updating momentarily. When you sign up, I get an email that you signed up. Then you request access to the Google Sheets that I post on Patreon every day. And when you do, I will give you permission, because obviously I have to lock the sheets to ensure that people aren't hacking in, or people that aren't members, all that fun stuff, and that the data is secure so that you know I'm updating it and it's accurate. But yeah, guys, I got to get out of here. This is craziness. I wish you all the best of luck on this slate tonight. If you enjoyed the content, if you enjoyed the stream, please take a second to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content that I upload. It is greatly appreciated. And wish you all the best of luck. We will see you in the next one. I'm out of here.